Power Up Your Life podcast. We just finished recording with Ral West, and this woman and her commitment to living the dream and her extensive entrepreneurship background and the focus on working on your business rather than in your business resonates so much with me and every member of Go Abundance Women. Anyone who's building a big life, a big business, and needs that space for their life, not just their business, you're really going to get a ton of value out of our conversation with Ral. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about my new friend, Ral. She is a visionary business leader and systemization expert who employs her 4+ decades of entrepreneurial expertise and her passion for business in her newest endeavor, Ral West, living the dream. See, I told you. Ral teaches entrepreneurs how to be an owner rather than an operator in their business so they can have a successful business and life that they deserve. She and her husband have founded several businesses, one notably achieving 8 figures in annual revenue before being acquired by Alaska Airlines. Super interesting exit there. Ral is a master at practical implementation of business theories to create effective progress that transform businesses and multiply success. She and her husband live in Alaska and Hawaii, and when they're not jet setting around the world, they go on tons of adventures. So more information can be found on ralwest.com. So let's dig in. Excited to show you this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Up Your Life podcast. I'm Mandy McAllister.
And I'm Kelly Resendez.
And we could not be more excited today to have with us Ral West. Ral, you are such a bright light. I am so excited to dig in with you today. Why don't you kick us off by letting us know a little bit about your progression in your own words?
Okay, well, it's a long story because I started my entrepreneurship over 4 decades ago. I'm much younger. I mean, I started when I was like 2,
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, I moved to Anchorage, Alaska in the early 1980s and started a little marketing consulting firm. And there I met my husband. He liked the idea of traveling to Hawaii, which is what I was doing to represent some of my clients. I specialized in the tourism industry. And so he started a business to take people to Hawaii. And I merged my tourism expertise with his expertise in selling and creating product. And we grew a business together for 25 years, grew it to 8 digits in annual revenue. And then we sold it to Alaska Airlines. But before we did that, we worked ourselves out of a job. We figured out that we could not be the mom and pop running this business with our hands in every single pie and, twirling all the plates ourselves. So we developed systems and nurtured our team and our culture and used leverage. And we got out of the day-to-day operation, bought a house in Maui, bought a yacht, started living the dream while our company just grew and grew and grew. And it was fabulous. So we went on after that to enter into a couple of other industries after selling that business. We've been involved in buying and leasing and selling small cruise ships. And we've been involved in the multifamily real estate space, syndications. We're partners in over 6,000 apartment units across the country. And then 2 years ago, I decided to start another business. So I said, and my adult daughter said, Mom, you need to teach people how you have developed this life where you can run your businesses and still take 6 weeks to travel in Europe and do whatever you want to do, go off on your yacht. Everybody wants to be like you. So I thought, okay, well, I don't know anything about this personal brand stuff, but hey, I'm young enough to learn. So I jumped in and started a business called Ral West, Living the Dream. And I teach entrepreneurs how to do what we did, get out of the day-to-day, work on your business instead of in it. Be the owner, not the operator of your business. So that's what I'm doing. I have an online course and a newsletter on LinkedIn, and I'm just going strong.
That's all you've done? I mean, you haven't done anything else? I mean, anybody listening is like, I want to be raw when I grow up.
There are a few other things I've done, but those are the main ones.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible.
I love the live in the dream moniker. That is exactly, you choose to speak into existence what you do. But before this exit to Alaska Airlines, before all these tremendous wins that you've had in your life, there had to have been a time on that journey where you felt stuck, where there were times that you didn't know what to do next. Talk to me a little bit about any strategy or things that you do to get unstuck when you feel that way.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? Yes, well, there were times. I'll just go back to the dark days of, being exhausted all the time and working, night and day, raising a young family. In fact, we joke that it took us 10 years to have our second kid because we were too busy to, do what we needed to do. So, so we have two daughters 10 years apart, and so I was even hiring people to help me take the kids to school and cook for us and so forth, because I didn't have time for any of that. And, yeah, something had to change because my health was suffering. I was overweight. I was very out of shape. The idea of having time to exercise was just like, yeah, right. Sleep comes first. Thank you. And then exercise. So, it was through a series of, reading books and talking with our mentors and getting ideas for how to grow the business. And I say that probably the biggest boon to that effort was a book that was recommended to us by Robert Kiyosaki himself. We had lunch with him on the Big Island back in 1994 or so. And he said, get The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And we picked it up that afternoon at the bookstore. And, we still had bookstores back then. And we devoured that book and said, oh my God, this is what we need to do. And Michael Gerber taught about how to create duplicatable systems in your business, teaching other people to do what you do. And, duplicating yourself, making sure that all of your processes, all of your tasks and procedures and mundane things that you do, that you feel like, I'm the only one that can handle this. Nobody else can do what I do. And that's, hooey. And you have to figure out how to teach other people how to do it. So we worked on that. It did not happen overnight. It took us years to get ourselves out of that day to day and teach our team. We had to work intentionally on the culture to build a team that was empowered. And we developed some guiding principles that would be like, my husband would call it like the snow fence. We live in Alaska. So as long as you're on the road and in between the snow fences, you're doing good. So, give them the parameters and allow them to make decisions within those parameters, and be okay with the fact that maybe some of those decisions aren't exactly what we would have done. But hey, does it meet the need? Does it serve the purpose? Is it serving our customers? That's another thing that we did. We implemented total quality management to make sure that our customers and delighting our customers was very much at the center of our entire culture and our organization, because we knew that we needed repeat business. We were chartering wide body jets, taking people from Alaska to Hawaii. There aren't enough people in Alaska to fill those jets over and over again. We had to get the same people going, 2 or 3 times a year sometimes to make our business successful. So that's what we focused on. And, there were a lot of, head scratchers, and I don't know how we can do this. And, the business is growing and we can't keep up, but you just, take it one step at a time and just work at it.
As you created those systems, as you delegated more, tell me a little bit about that journey then to start taking care of yourself. Did it give you the freedom then to be able to do that? When did that come into? Obviously, you are super healthy and one of the most present people. And to even imagine you being different than that is a little bit impossible almost.
Yeah.
So how did that journey go?
Yeah, it was not an overnight thing either. So I had fits and starts. I would get into exercise, and it didn't happen until later in life. And I would say that there were years, like a few years here and a few years there, that I'd be, okay, I'm really committed to working out, and that would go really well for a while. And then something would happen. I'd get injured or something, and I'd fall off and, go back, and the weight would come back on and all that. But for the last, the last 6 years, I've been very, very dedicated to staying healthy and eating right. And I work out. In fact, right after this, I'm going to the gym and working out in between doing a couple of podcasts. So, I just make it a priority in my life now. So yeah, it's gotta be something that you put up at the top of the list and you don't compromise on it. And I'll tell you, there were days that, I feel sick or I'm tired and I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this, but you just bite the bullet and do it. So do
It's
something.
the idea. Exactly. It's the idea of, if you say it's a priority, if you want to know if it's really a priority, show me how you spend your money, show me how you spend your time. It
Yeah.
sounds like health is actually really a priority right now. And
Yes.
Kelly and I are co-founders of Go Abundance Women. We're the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous women who choose to lead epic lives. And so many things that you've talked about resonate so deeply with every woman in our group. The setting aside your health, the not making yourself the priority because you've got all these other mouths to help feed because of your business, and the need to manage your way out of it. That is so incredibly important to every entrepreneur that's part of our organization. So thank you for your insight there. I'm also curious that the idea of entrepreneurship in general, it's not the normal path, right? It's not what we're taught, like the go get good grades, like the Robert Kiyosaki message. Talk to me about the idea of unconventional strategies that you've got, unconventional opinions that people might not agree with, because you've got to kind of have that air of unconventionality to get into entrepreneurship. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I think I was lucky that I was born into an entrepreneurial family. So the idea of, hey, just do it, just take the chance and put yourself out there was part of our family culture. And I remember sitting down with my dad when I was wanting to start my first little business. And, his words were, yeah, go for it, see what you can do. And, if I failed, okay, then I failed and I would go do something else. But, it starts with having the belief that, anything is possible. My mother had a little saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And so I think I was just imbued with that kind of attitude and mindset. And I think that's the key to being successful really in anything, but particularly as an entrepreneur. You've got to have faith that you can make it happen. And you've got to have faith in yourself. And yes, there are very discouraging times. There's times when, gee, it's not working out the way I wanted, but you just have to, pick yourself up. And, and then I also do a little deep digging into my soul and sort of ask, my higher power, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? Should I be continuing this path? And, time and again, I get the answer. Go for it. Go for it. Just put yourself out there. And, it's easy to say the worst thing that can happen is that you can fail. And, those of us who, fail as a 4-letter word, I don't want to do that. But you do have to get comfortable with, making mistakes and it not being perfect. The goal is not perfection. And, being people sometimes call themselves recovering perfectionists.
That would be me. I call myself that.
Yeah. So we really have to, cure ourselves of that because it's not going to be perfect. Yeah. It's not going to be pretty all the time. So you just have to go for it. And I think that's the key is just try one thing after another and don't give up. I remember when in our business we had a really disastrous situation where the airlines that we were using to get people to Hawaii before we started chartering, they pulled out of our market and we had no way to get our passengers, our customers to Hawaii. And we sat down over lunch and said, maybe we should just close the doors. We don't owe anybody any money because we started with nothing, just ourselves. So, the answer came to us, no, this is a service that's really needed. It's a product that people in Alaska really want. So we have to find a way. So I just said, there's no such thing as a dead end. We're going to make this work. We're going to figure something out. And before long, John had found an airplane that was available to be chartered, and people thought we were crazy. You were talking about, the naysayers and what are you doing? We were going to charter this plane in the summertime in Alaska. And people, said, people don't go to Hawaii from Alaska in the summer. Summer is when everybody wants to be in Alaska. Why would you charter this jet in the summer? And I looked at my numbers. I studied the spreadsheets of what we'd actually produced over the previous years. And I said, no, we've got the numbers. We can fill this one plane. We can do it. And so we did. And John's an amazing salesperson, and we filled every seat. And particularly, he was motivated because we used his mother's retirement account as collateral for the charter guarantee. So
That'll motivate you.
So that's another aspect of being an entrepreneur, is that you got to take a big gulp and take some risks sometimes.
Yeah. So next question here, like one of the things that we've noticed, especially with highly successful women, is that a lot of us have daily recipes and rituals that we really kind of get into or do regularly. And it sounds like some of what you've done for yourself now and putting yourself first is there, but are there other things that you've always done that really you attribute some of your success to?
Well, I am a planner and an organizer, and I used to create lists, of things to do. And I'm sure sticky notes everywhere, that kind of thing. But quite a few years ago, probably over a dozen years ago, I got into some software that helped me organize everything. And that's my Bible, my go-to. I call it my brain. If I don't have that, I can't do anything. So last thing every night, first thing every morning, I check what it is that I need to be doing. What are the highest priority things? And I shift things around to make sure that I've got the time to do the things that are the most critical. So I'm constantly working that. And this app keeps track of everything for me, not just business, but all my personal life, birthdays, Christmas, you name doctor's appointments, everything. So
what is that software?
I'm like, which app is that? Little marketing here for them.
Right.
Well, it's called OmniFocus. But it's been around for a long, long time. And there are many, many others that are newer that are just as good. But, I'm into this one, and it would take me so many hours to transition everything to another app. I figure as long as this one's working, why throw it out?
Yeah.
But it keeps growing. They keep, improving the app. And, it organizes things by project. So you can, look at a particular project and see what's coming up. You can
it's
set
like that, which project board is the best, or which CRM is the best. The one you'll use is the best.
Yes.
So making sure you're fully engaged.
Some people just use their calendar or the little reminders app. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But my life's a little bit more complicated than that. I don't think that my little reminders app could keep up with everything. So, I use it to remind myself when to pay property taxes and, everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mandy and I have a digital twin platform that we're launching, and one of the things you said, it's called a brain. It basically takes all of your content and uses it so that even when you're tired, you can even ask your AI brain, like, what would I do in this situation? So I think a lot of us that are very productive and have a lot of different things that we're focused on, we need that support. And it's not, it's not weakness. I think it's a strength that we can lean on some of these other technologies as well.
Yeah. Although I do get teased a lot for, being sort of a slave to this, this app.
Your brain is meant.
What's that?
Absolutely. Your brain is meant to use information, to move it through, not meant to hold things. So having that second brain to hold things clears things up so that you can, really think things through.
Oh yeah. I know. And my daughters tease me all the time about how my memory's not as good as it used to be. And I said, yeah, that's because my hard drive is full.
I tell my nannies that, oh my God, I used to be so smart, and then all of this business stuff and the family and all of the things, I feel that in a big way.
Yeah,
that leads us into
a larger hard drive.
I Got to get an upgrade. This leads us into like another really important piece that I think is an actionable potential nugget for our listeners. When you're lacking clarity, when you don't know the decision to make, getting really clear on where you're going is the best way to get to where you want to go. But when you're lacking that clarity, tell me a little bit about what you do to gain clarity so that you're headed in the right direction.
You have to stop for a little bit and, slow things down and, think about it. And I remember being told by one of my mentors, if you can't make the decision, then don't.
Wow.
Sometimes you're just not ready to make that decision. So wait until it becomes clear to you. And I think sometimes we push it. We force ourselves to I got to make this decision. I got to choose. Well, sometimes that answer is not clear. Maybe you need more data. Maybe you just need more time. Maybe you need a good sleep. I don't know, whatever it is, and so do give yourself the opportunity to get that clarity. And it's not going to come just because you will it, so, and then another thing that I learned along the way is that when you're operating in chaos, it's like being in the middle of a windstorm and the leaves are just whirling all around you. You can't think. You are not thinking straight. You can't. So you have to slow things down and take one leaf at a time and just pick it out of the air and put it down and create what's called stable datum and, get clear on just one or two, and then again and again and again until that chaos kind of settles down. And then things become more clear. So, give yourself that opportunity to get the clarity, but take it one piece at a time. So sometimes, you have 10, 16, 20, whatever things going on at once. We're, especially females, we're so good at multitasking. Well, sometimes that's not a good thing to do. So sometimes you just need to slow it down and say, okay, what's the one thing that I can actually handle and get done right now? And then that leads you to the next thing and so forth.
Love that.
I feel like you're speaking into my soul, Ral. Absolutely. Holy moly. So, man, there were just so many amazing, ideas and actionable steps that you've given us today. But I think for me, what's really resonated is just slowing down and listening and waiting. A lot of times, I have a lot of faith and like you, just I do wait sometimes for that guidance, but we do need to slow down enough to do it. Some other things that you said is anything is possible. That unconventional belief. So many of us have just played it safe and have taken the easy route of just certainty. And I think uncertainty is where the magic happens and that willingness to fail. So those were just really the top highlights for me. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
I completely agree with those. The anything is possible and then just go for it. I mean, a very building block of entrepreneurship is figuring out how to work on your business rather than in it. And
Absolutely.
that slowing down, that thinking time, the ideas of how do I affect change and create these SOPs so things that are recreatable without my hands is the only path to scale. And I also really loved, I say a lot that if you want to look at any problem, the easiest way to solve it is to get as close to truth as possible. I love that you went to the numbers. When people were saying, oh, it can't be done, you just went to the truth. You went to the numbers and you showed that it could, and then you went for it. That is incredibly commendable.
Well, thanks. And that's one of the principles that I teach is tracking your numbers.
I love it.
Many people don't do that,
Yeah, it also matters so much to us at Go Abundance Women at the Power of Your Life podcast that you've imparted this wisdom on us, and we want to be able to have the chance to lift you up too. So maybe tell us and tell our listeners what is an introduction or a resource that if you had it would be life changing or ball game changing for something you're working on.
Okay, well, what I offer is my course, obviously the Overcome Overwhelm, create a smooth running business with less stress. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the course, the free way to do that is to look at my webinar. It's on my website and you just sign up the website is www.ralwest.com. And there's several places that you can sign up for the webinar. It's free. You can watch it anytime. It's not like a set time. And it's like 45 minutes long, and it has really actionable tips and strategies that you can use right now to help you in your business. And it's an introduction to what's in the course as well. And another thing that you can do, and I know I'm not supposed to offer too many items, too many choices, but LinkedIn, I have a newsletter on LinkedIn that's free.
Love it.
Just subscribe to my newsletter. It comes out once a week, and it's just jam-packed with actionable strategies and tips and things that you can do right now to improve your business.
I love that. So check her out at ralwest.com. And it has been such a blessing having you here, helping all of our listeners power up your life. So if you love this episode, feel free to share it, like it, comment, and we'll continue to just bring amazing guests like Ral West to the table. And just grateful that you've all joined us here today. Thank you, Ral, so much for giving us your wisdom and time today. Just so incredibly impressed with everything that you've done.
Oh,
So
thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for joining us,
pleasure.
and hope you power up your life.
See you next week.